foreign education versus one at home here in India. Does one give you an edge over the other? How do you know which one is for you and narrow down on that perfect fit? It's a dilemma many face, and today we look at how and why to choose one over the other. Kriti Mathur reports.
Studying abroad, an attractive option for many of those who can afford it, and the number of students heading to foreign shores to study is only going up. A study by IIM Bangalore says that in the past 9 years, there has been a 256% increase in the number of Indian students going abroad to study. An enormous increase which leads many to wonder why a foreign education over one we can get here in India.
The population has increased phenomenally. Do we have the same quality education institutes in this country? No, we don't. We're pretty much with the same institutes which used to exist earlier.
Studying abroad is expensive, no doubt, which is why, while the cost is a deterrent for many, others have different reasons to stay back.
I wanted to explore what it is like to be in the mainstream education of India because I came from a really small boarding school outside of Bangalore. And you always felt like there's an opportunity to go abroad later.
The course that I want to pursue for my masters, that's much more rigorous and that's much more comprehensive in India than a lot of foreign universities. Besides, most of the foreign universities, they offer you an integrated course. So I would not like to waste 8 years or 9 years doing something, continuously. I would rather like to explore many more options living here in India.
Many students stay in India due to the cost involved in getting oneself educated abroad. Why do you think you chose DU over a foreign education, even though you got into colleges abroad?
Well, that was primarily because colleges abroad are pretty expensive and the costs were way too high for me to manage, and I wasn't getting a scholarship because that time the economy was pretty bad as well and most universities weren't offering scholarship.
How do exchange students in India from other countries see the debate? Trevor from the United States compares it to what he gets back home.
I came to India because I thought it'd be a really interesting opportunity to kind of, go outside of the usual study abroad experience. Most kids go to Europe or something like that. Been really interesting to see a lot of the differences. Obviously, the education system is different. This is more of a British style education system, so it's a lot more lecturing and things like that, which I think is helpful.
But this can't be said about every institution across the board in India. And limited options, say many along with crazy cutoffs at several places, forces them to set their sights elsewhere, with career counsellors and experts debating whether the large number of students who are going abroad, despite the increasing costs, is a trend.
I think the trend will continue, but I think we've kind of reached a plateau in the numbers that will actually pursue an education overseas. But I do not visualize an further increase, and I hope that the kind of initiatives that the Government of India has taken to launch the innovation universities, to launch programs which are different and accepted by UGC, such initiatives would then encourage quality education in India as well.
As the debate between studying in India and abroad rages on, one thing is for sure: India needs to catch up. In New Delhi with Zubair Rizvi, Kriti Mathur for NDTV.
So foreign versus Indian education, how do you know which one is for you? Usha Albuquerque needs absolutely no introduction. She's with us now to just answer some of the concerns that so many of you have raised. Let's start with Aman first.
How should one choose between a mid-ranked college at the Delhi University and a high-ranked college in the US when we are applying for financial aid in the US, but in this case, we aren't receiving any financial aid or scholarship for the college at the US. So how should one make a choice between these two?
Basically, when you're looking at this kind of question, I would say, Aman, the factors to keep in mind is, one, if you're planning to come back and work in India after your course, then you're much safer studying in India.
I see.
Because campus placements happen on all the good colleges, and the chances of getting a job are much better here. And students returning from overseas are very rarely selected directly into
I
jobs
see.
for freshers.
Right.
So it's very difficult
So that's
for
an
them
important
to,
point you make, ma'am,
Yes.
because you're saying that just because you come armed with a degree from a foreign
Doesn't
institution
necessarily
doesn't mean
mean-
that you have
yes.
the advantage.
Most recruiters already know the kind of students they will get
I
from the
see.
different colleges, and they already know how to make their pick. The second factor to keep in mind is that if you're looking to work there after that, it's extremely difficult. The US is not giving work permits, or very reluctantly. The UK, of course, it's completely out. In the US, there are now moves to include students of what is called STEM courses. Science, technology, engineering and maths. The STEM
see.
courses are the ones that may be allowed to stay on and work for a couple of years and given a work permit, because that is what the Obama administration feels
I
they
see.
require
I
in the
see.
US.
Right, now we're now joined by Gauri Sharma, an economics student. Gauri, I believe you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is for a master's course in economics. Are there any universities or colleges that offer any specialized courses like masters in economic development or environmental economics or something like that in India?
Yes, there are limited, but like Delhi School of Economics itself has an excellent course of MA Economics where you can specialize in development economics. They also have something on industrial and agricultural economics. Plus, there is Terry Universities that has set up an MA in public policy and sustainable development. There is the South Asian University that has a course in development economics. And I would say, Gauri, there is a very interesting course being offered by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences with the Azim Premji University, which is an MA in development. So there are some of these new courses and some courses coming up which could be interesting, but as I said, they are limited.
Right, Sunita, she's a parent of a class 12 student. I would imagine parents, of course, also very concerned, as much, if not more, going around the bend. I can imagine that. I remember my days and what my parents had to go to for sure. But you know what they're going through, also their own nightmares on where their children are going to go. Sunita, go ahead. We'll try and have your concern addressed.
We've been reading a lot about these new private liberal arts colleges that are coming up in India. You have Flame in Pune, and then Shiv Nada University, and more recently Ashoka University. So most of them have very weighty names behind them, and they offer you the advantages, the flexibility that an American system would give you in the first 2 years of education. So it's very attractive because it's closer home and it's available at a fraction of the cost. But the dilemma is that they have very little or no track record. So how would you sort of rate or rank these universities versus the American colleges? And do you think at the undergraduate level they offer a viable option to a student who's looking to get into that sort of education, a liberal arts education?
Right. I just want to break that question up, actually. I first want to say that, do you believe that these corporates or these big industrial names that are sort of getting into the field of education are really going to, say, in 10 years transform the educational scenario in India?
I don't know, but we certainly need new and a different way of looking at education. And I think a large part of it really depends on the caliber of the promoters and their motive for setting up an institute of learning. There are a couple of other things that one needs to keep in mind. One would be, as I said, the caliber of the promoters. Could also be the faculty that they've hired. What is their track record? What are their background experience? What are the research credentials of the institute or the faculty? The infrastructure, the facilities they're offering, teacher-student ratio. Many of them are partnering with foreign universities.
So
what is the depth of that engagement
So
with
do
the
your homework
do your
thoroughly
homework.
before
And
you
I
get
would
into
say,
anything.
I mean, these are a couple of names that the lady has given. I have to admit that we've researched Ashoka University in particular, and I find it meets most of these parameters.
I see.
I was very happy to do that. The others I haven't. We need to do that. And I would say if all of them meet up with the parameters that you're looking for in a good institute. Like I said, the most important is the integrity of purpose and the commitment to the betterment of the student.
They're not into it for the business
I
of
would
education,
say, yes,
but
let 1,000 flowers bloom.
Right, I'm afraid that's it. We've run out of time. 4 questions there. All those of you who need your questions answered, your queries addressed, remember you can always write into us and we will try and get you the answers and help you in whichever way we can. Well, time now for a quick break. Coming up after that,
Indian educated students have earned a name for themselves.